The road from Kaku to Kouan unfurled like a ribbon across sunlit plains. Gameon stepped stirring dust as the sea's salt faded behind him. Kouan emerged in a valley's embrace, its tiled roofs glinting under noon's glare, streets alive with merchants' calls and the clink of coins. Stone walls stood weathered but proud, cradling a town of ambition and secrets, where Lepant's name whispered promise for the Liberation Army's cause. Lepant was a well-known man in Kouan, and Gameon had no problem finding his estate. However, Lepant's butler, Giovanni, stood outside and denied Gameon's entry. Gameon and his squad were at a loss and decided to go to the local inn for a rest and discuss their next steps. Someone overheard their discussion. His sharp, mischievous eyes glint with cunning, a smirk ever playing on his lips, hinting at schemes brewing beneath his carefree facade. The man would later be known as Krin. "So, you went to Lepant's mansion? A bunch of amateurs like you could spend years banging on the front door, and you would still never see him," Krin said with a grin on his face. Krin then offered the squad a proposal, a plan to get the squad a chance to meet Lepant. Do you know why Lepant never has any visitors? He doesn't want to get mixed up with individuals like you who defy the Empire, Krin explained to the group. Lepant treasures two things above all else: his wife Eileen and his legendary sword, Kirinji. Krin continued to share his plan. If you steal Kirinji, Lepant will come after you no matter what. This was the plan. With the help from Krin, the squad would sneak into Lepant's estate and steal Kirinji, the legendary sword. With Krin's help, Gaemon's squad scaled a tall tree nearby and sneaked atop the roof of Lepant's mansion. Moonlight bathed Kouan's rooftops in silver, shadows pooling like ink as Gaemon led his companions across sloping tiles, their steps a hushed vow against the night. Kirinji, the legendary sword, waited within Lepant's mansion, its gleam a beacon to sway a warrior to the Liberation Army's cause. As the group descended from the ceiling, in the first room they encountered in Lepant's mansion, Gameon saw Rock. "I am just a warehouse guard," he said, a stout and wiry figure with a meticulous air, his sharp eyes scanning shelves with a hawk's precision. Clad in simple practical robes, his calloused hands betray years of organizing supplies. Rock would join the Liberation Army and open a warehouse there. Gameon's staff glowed softly, guiding Cleo's twin blades, Gremio's steady axe, Victor's massive greatsword, Camille's poised spear, and Kai's staff, its master's precision a quiet storm. The mansion's corridors were a tapestry of wealth, marble floors mirroring torchlight, silken drapes stirring like specters in the gloom. Gaemon's heart raced, senses sharp as they glided through, the air humming with a mechanical chill. Robot soldiers surged from alcoves, towering constructs of iron and wire, their gears grinding, red eyes pulsing with cold malice. Gameon's staff struck, sparks flaring against steel, the impact shuddering through him as a blade slashed near. Cleo wove through, her blades carving into joints, metal screeching as circuits sparked. Gremio's axe thundered, splitting a chassis, gears, clattering like bones, while Victor's greatsword roared, cleaving a soldier in two, its halves crashing to stone. Camille's spear lanced through, piercing a glowing core, and Kai's staff danced, strikes precise as lightning, shattering armor. The battle was a tempest of steel, robots relentless, their blades scarring walls. Each fell with a metallic groan, but the clash drained the group, their breaths sharp as they ventured deeper, Kirinji's call a faint pulse. Lepant's mansion was filled with treasures. The squad opened chest after chest, but none of them hid the Kirinji. As the group found their way through a corridor, a man stood at the end of it. Jupo, a trickster, with a glint of mischief in his keen eyes, his disheveled hair hinting at a mind always tinkering. Clad in patched robes strewn with gadgets, he moves with a restless energy, his nimble fingers crafting whimsical yet deadly contraptions. Who am I? I am Jupo the trickster. And who are you folk? Jupo asked as he introduced himself. Jupo was the creator of all the deadly contraptions in the mansion, and he warned of a large one in the next room. Jupo was a genius with a penchant for pranks. He would join the Liberation Army with a sly grin, his creations as unpredictable as his loyalty. As the group made their way to the next room, a giant roulette board loomed. A bizarre, mechanical marvel, its massive circular surface dominating a dimly lit chamber. Adorned with vibrant spinning segments, each marked by cryptic symbols and colors. It whirred with a hypnotic hum, gears grinding beneath as it guards Kirinji's path. Lethal and unpredictable, its rotations triggered traps or rewards, a gambler's gauntlet testing the group's nerve and luck amidst the mansion's dangers. With a lucky spin, the group landed on the spot marked with a question mark. The roulette board returned them to the starting spot, and they received the dragon incense. The item would come in handy in battles ahead, as it could be used to heal the squad infinitely during each fight. With another spin, the squad were then brought to the final room of the mansion. Within, Kirinji gleamed, a blade of myth, its steel shimmering like starlight forged, hilt bound in ancient silk. Gaemon's hand paused, feeling its weight beyond the metal, a key to Lepant's heart and the rebellion's hope. The chamber was still, traps silenced, robots dust, yet the sword's radiance demanded courage to claim. He lifted it, its balance, a song of power, and they retraced their path, the mansion's shadows bowing to their victory, Kirinji a spark to light the Liberation Army's way. The squad exited the mansion. The exit was smooth as all contraptions were turned off by Jupo. Krin waited outside for the squad, and they returned to the inn to discuss their next move. You must be tired. How about some tea? Krin asked as he brought some tea to the room from the counter outside. Tea? Gameon's squad said. Memories. from the incident at Mount Tigerwolf were still fresh on their minds. Come, nothing like a cup of tea to relax, Krin said, holding the pot of tea. How about you drink it first, Victor said, not going to fall for the same trick twice. He forced Krin to drink the tea, and within seconds, Krin fell and collapsed onto the bed. Come on out, thieves. The sooner you turn yourselves in, the easier it will go for you. A voice came from outside the room. Krin had informed Lepant to come to the inn to capture the thieves who stole his sword. He thought he would have drugged the squad by then, and he could escape with the sword. Lepant stood at the main hall of the inn. A tall, broad-shouldered warrior with a commanding presence, his weathered face etched with resolve and honor. Cladded in finely crafted armor, his piercing eyes reflected a strategist's mind. Are you the one who stole my family heirloom? Return Kirinji to me at once, or you will all pay the consequence, Lepant said, his voice strong, firm, and commanding. Actually, Mathieu suggested we come see you. Gameon replied. What, Mathieu? If Mathieu sent you, I would like to help. But there are some things I cannot part with. I ask that you return Kirinji and be on your way, Lepant said, his voice softened a little. The group returned the sword, but just then, Giovanni rushed into the inn bearing terrible news. The new military commander took Madame Eileen away. I tried to stop him, but Giovanni said. Kouan's twilight burned crimson as Lepant charged through its streets, his heart a furnace of fury and fear. Word of Eileen's capture by Kraze had struck like a blade, and now the commander's outpost loomed, its stone walls a cage for his beloved. Lepant's armor gleamed, Kirinji's hilt tight in his grip, its steel a vow of retribution. At the outpost's gates, Imperial guards stood rigid, their spears glinting under torchlight, but Lepant was a tempest. His sword arced, a silver blur, shattering spear shafts and armor. The guards crumpled, their cries swallowed by dusk, as Lepant stormed through, blood and resolve painting his path. Inside, the outpost was a den of shadows, air thick with oil and malice. Another cadre of soldiers awaited, blades drawn, their eyes cold with duty. Lepant's sword sang, each strike a thunderclap, cleaving steel and bone, his movements a dance of desperation and skill. Sweat stung his brow, Eileen's name a silent pulse driving him as he felled the last soldier, their bodies strewn across the stone floor. Gameon's group emerged from the gloom, their weapons ready. Gameon's staff aglow, axes and blades poised, a tide of rebellion joining Lepant's cause. A larger force surged from the outpost's depths, soldiers armored in imperial wrath, their swords a wall of death. Gameon led the charge, his staff striking sparks, while companions wove through, blades and spears flashing, a symphony of defiance. Lepant fought beside them, Kirinji a beacon, each swing carving freedom's path. The clash was fierce, steel screaming, blood pooling, but the combined might prevailed, the soldiers collapsing under the rebellion's fury. Lepant's eyes burned, Eileen's rescue near, as the outpost fell silent, the Liberation Army's spark blazing brighter in Kouan's heart. The group rushed upstairs where Kraze had held Eileen captive. Within the furthest room stood Kraze, a familiar face from Gregminster, who brought back memories of Ted's sacrifice. You again, Gameon. Thanks to you, I have been exiled to this country town in the middle of nowhere, Kraze barked. First you interfere with my promotion, and now you dare to interfere with my pleasure. Kraze continued. What? Give Eileen back at once, you miserable filth, Lepant roared as he readied his sword. Another group of soldiers rushed in, and the next battle broke out. Their polished armor clanking like a death knell, swords drawn with lethal precision under the torchlit gloom. Gameon stood firm, his staff aglow with rebellion's fire, its arc meeting steel with a shower of sparks that lit the air. His companions fanned out, axes roaring through mail, blades weaving deadly patterns and spears thrusting with unyielding force, each strike a defiance of the Empire's tyranny. Lepant fought as a titan, Kirinji a silver storm in his hands, each swing carving through shields and flesh, his eyes burning with the desperate hope of Eileen's rescue. The clash was a maelstrom. Steel screamed against steel, blood pooled on the stone floor, and the air grew thick with sweat and irons. Tang! Soldiers pressed forward, their numbers daunting, yet the rebellion's heart held strong. Gameon's leadership a beacon as Lepant's blade, and the group's fury shattered the Imperial line, leaving silence and fallen foes in their wake. "Oh, let me reunite you with an old friend of yours. Hey, come on out!" Kraze shouted as he held Eileen as hostage after witnessing his guards falling. At the door stood Pahn, the traitor who sold Ted to the Imperial soldiers. "Now then, Pahn. Seize them all! This is your chance to redeem General Teo's name!" Kraze cried out desperately. "Pahn! Are you really going to listen to the likes of him?" Gremio said, gazing into the eyes of his old friend. "Cleo, Gremio, young master. Even now, I don't regret the choice I made that day," Pahn said, his fists clenched. "But my heart still aches. I want to be true to myself. Time will judge whether my heart was in the right place." Pahn had been living in torment since the fateful night of betrayal. "What are you talking about, Pahn?" Kraze was desperate. With a quick leap at the speed of lightning, Pahn pushed Kraze away and stood in between him and Eileen. "There seem to be a lot of people who really hate you," Victor said, grinning. Kraze was cornered and his last lifeline had failed him. However, Gameon chose to let him go. A heart bigger than most. Commander Gameon, it appears I, too, am now a fugitive. I turned a blind eye to the Empire's cruelties, just to protect my family. And look where it has gotten me, Lepant said, his voice filled with regret. Commander, Gameon, please allow me to be of help to you and the Liberation Army. Lepant officially joined the Liberation Army. He would later prove to be a valuable asset to the rebellion. Gameon's gaze turned to Pahn. Young Master, I mean Master Gameon, please let me join the Liberation Army. I'm in no position to ask for forgiveness, but I would still like to serve under your command. Pahn said, his eyes filled with remorse. Pahn, we could use you on our side, Gameon said, and with that, a few more recruits joined the rebellion that day. The flames of the Liberation Army glowed stronger than before. With the mission at Kouan a wrap, Gameon returned to Ramyeon Castle. Outside the inn, two familiar faces emerged. Varkas and Sidonia, the bandits of Mount Seifu, had came to join the Liberation Army. Anyway, where is Lady Odessa? I would like to pay my respects, Farkas asked. Odessa has gone north for reasons we can't discuss now. Mathieu stepped in to dissolve the situation. Commander Gameon is our leader while she is away. Mathieu continued. The Liberation Army had grown, but its power was still weak, and the truth of Odessa's demise could not be revealed just yet. That night, lanterns glowed like stars within Ramyeon Castle's halls, the Liberation Army's banquet a tapestry of laughter and clinking cups, celebrating Lepant's alliance and other new recruits under the knight's velvet cloak. Gameon stood amidst the revelry, his heart warmed by unity, yet a shadow stirred in the crowd's edge. A cloaked assassin lunged, dagger flashing like a viper's fang, its edge aimed for his throat. Gameon's instincts flared, his staff blur as he parried, the blade grazing air. The hall's din faded, eyes blind to the silent duel as Gameon danced with death, his strikes swift, each blow a pulse of defiance. The assassin's cloak swirled, but Gameon's staff struck true. Disarming the foe, breath heaving, Gameon stood alone. Pahn was the first who rushed out. "Master Gameon, are you all right, you bastard?" Pahn pushed the masked figure away. "How dare you infiltrate the Liberation Army's headquarters?" Victor shouted. "Liberation Army, my foot. You really think you can defeat the Empire? What a bunch of fools you are. Watch your back, Gameon. Lady Windy will stop at nothing to take what she wants," the assassin said, as Heflid into the knight's embrace. After the assassination attempt, Pahn and Cleo stepped up security and guarded Gameon by his bed through the night. The next morning beckoned, and Gremio came by to greet his young master. The Liberation Army would continue to seek more allies in the next episode. If you have enjoyed this one, please give it a like and subscribe for more. Thanks, and see you in the next one.